Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in. This morning I read something that I felt really telling. It was written by a woman named Laura Dodsworth. First they came for the truckers, and I did not speak out because I was not a trucker. Then they came for the donors to truckers, and I did not speak out because I was not a donor to truckers. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Yesterday, I personally witnessed a woman get trampled. Her name was Candace Serro. She's alive, despite the rumors. However, today, police are employing pepper spray against Canadians. So it's a dark day in our history. Never in my life would I believe anyone if they told me that our Prime Minister would refuse dialogue and choose violence against peaceful protesters. We're all in shock, and we are currently organizing legal counsel and support for those injured by police brutality and for those being arrested. Proud citizens demonstrating for their freedoms are now being apprehended for holding Canadian flags. They are being targeted for waving our glorious maple leaf. As we have seen, each time the government throws hurdles our way, it only strengthens Canadians' resolve. This demonstration has never been about COVID-19. It's been about the restrictions on personal autonomy that have been falsely justified for public safety. The infringement on our rights is now obvious and on full display in our nation's capital. 3 of our organizers, Chris, Tamara, and Danny, have been arrested on petty counts of mischief, and bank accounts of those who dared speak out have been frozen, including mine. All in Trudeau's desperate attempt to intimidate the opponents of his tyrannical regime. This is a grassroots movement, and others will fill their roles. Others have already filled their roles. People want a hero to rally around. There is no single person who leads this freedom convoy. This is ordinary Canadians who are asserting their rights. I'm certainly not a hero. I'm simply a father. I never thought I'd see the day when law enforcement officers would be arresting citizens for the crime of exercising their charter rights and freedoms to free assembly and free speech. It remains to be seen if Canadian democracy can survive such an abuse of power. There are hundreds of police on Parliament Hill. Many are here in riot gear holding military assault rifles. There are armored vehicles and police transport buses. For what? We have no answer to that question. When someone held up their arms to protect against a baton being swung at their head, the Ottawa police claimed that their weapon was being reached for. Now they are claiming that not a single protester was trampled. I saw it myself. I was 10 feet away. Minutes after Tamara Litch crouched down to be in a picture with a little girl while exchanging hugs and well wishes with fellow demonstrators, she was arrested for aiding and abetting mischief. The next day, Danny Beaufort pleaded with his fellow police officers right here beside me. He stood here, right here, and pleaded with his fellow police officers. And he was immediately arrested within the hour. This is very reckless, and it escalated, and it is escalating. It's escalating our support. That's all it's escalating. It's painful. Is this a democracy? Is this Canada? Can you hear democracy's death now? It rings louder than the truckers' horns. The mainstream media has portrayed us as anti-government. I read that this morning on the mainstream media. Well, I've been pleading with the official Canadian government to talk and read our plan, because the only plan that they have is violence. And the institution of a Chinese-style social credit score system, the entire federal government, all of the members of parliament at the federal level should be ashamed of themselves. They have failed us badly. But instead, they're going to give themselves a third pay raise throughout this pandemic, while other people are going to lose everything. We have always been a peaceful protest. There has never been violence in the 3 weeks that I have been here. Just peace, love, hugs, and singing "O Canada." The violence came to us when the police arrived. The police brought the violence. To that end, as a movement, we have chosen to peacefully withdraw from the streets of Ottawa. There is nothing to be gained by being brutalized by police. We will simply regroup as a grassroots movement. If the police can tame their insatiable need for violence and remove the barriers preventing us from actually leaving, we will peacefully withdraw starting today. The truckers will be initiating a charter challenge, seeking to have the court strike down the unconstitutional vaccine mandates that discriminate against us all. I'm going to read this from a dear friend. I'm so disappointed on how the truckers' peaceful protest for freedom has been met with violence by the police and the government. We call upon all Canadians to join us in a movement of silence and prayer. We pray for peace, freedom, and openness from the government to engage in a healthy discussion. We want safety and freedom for all Canadians. Just give me a minute to grab some water and I'll take some questions, but please make them good. It's been a hard day.
Okay, so obviously people are really upset here in learning in light of this information. We know the truckers are leaving, but that doesn't mean the protesters have to leave, does it?
Every protester here who is on foot in a vehicle, we are not going to behave like the government and tell you what to do. You make your own choice. You've made your own decision. Many of the truckers are choosing to peacefully withdraw. Many people are walking into the city and choosing to exercise their right to protest on foot. So I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm telling everyone to dig deep and decide what is best for them.
Since the beginning, the city has asked you to leave, the police have asked you to leave. They've declared this occupation illegal for, what, 2 weeks now?
3.
It's full 3 weeks. Okay, there you go. Do you not have some responsibility here for what happened today? I mean, they have made it clear that they were going to deploy riot teams, and you chose to stay. I mean, do you bear any responsibility for that?
What laws have we broken?
I think the police have.
What laws have we broken? They're parking infractions. Parking infractions. What laws? You tell me. Next question.
By peacefully withdrawing, does that mean they are still holding the line?
Every trucker will decide for themselves. We have many truckers who feel that the best course of action for them and their families is to peacefully withdraw and regroup and plan our next move. Because we're not going to just stand there and be a punching bag for law enforcement.
I've been asked to tell you that America is watching. They're watching very acutely as to what's going on here with this violence that's taking place against the truckers. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kirsten Pierce, the liaison officer for the OPP, at 10 a.m. this morning was advised that there would be a peaceful retreat at 1 o'clock and that there'd be no reason for any violence whatsoever. And since 10 o'clock, we've had rubber bullets, tear gas canisters, and beatings.
I was in communication with the police this morning myself. The police, the OPP liaison officer that I've been dealing with, exceptional guy, honestly. He passed up the message up the chain of command. I guaranteed him that the vast majority of the truckers do want to peacefully withdraw, but it is an individual choice for every trucker. And we need their assistance to actually move barriers to let us out. And we also need to be able to get fuel into those trucks so that the trucks can actually drive out of here as well. And the response I got was, I'll pass it up the chain. And that was at about 10 after 10 this morning.
There are a lot of Andrew Lawton, True North. I had a source that said that the Convoy organizers are in control of the Give, Send, Go money, and it's in unfrozen currency, and it's made it into Canada. Is that accurate? And if so, what's the plan with that money?
Honestly, I really cannot speak to the Give, Send, Go that issue at all. Like I'm not on the inside in those particular discussions. But what I can say is that ordinary people, I had a wonderful woman that I met last weekend walk up to me and just give me a $10 bill and said, could you put this into the hands of the truckers? That's what I did. And we have had, I would say probably hundreds of thousands of dollars donated in cash from anonymous donors that just want to support us.
And what is going to happen to that money? We see about $1 million has been released. Is this going to be dispersed in any way to the people who have suffered property damage? Is there going to be any accountability?
People who have, okay, that's a Tanya Harding question. Next.
No. You have $1 million. What's going to happen to the money? This was donated
Next
to people
question.
here, not you personally.
How much money do you have in your bank account right now?
Me personally, I have
No.
none. It's been frozen.
You have a not-for-profit. How much
Yep.
money is in the bank account of your not-for-profit?
I don't know. Next question. That's
Your supporters, you owe them some accountability, surely.
He
You
said
have
he
a
doesn't
bank
know.
account.
I don't know. I don't
He
know.
doesn't know.
Who
That's his answer. Why do you want another one?
Because it's $1 million that donated to the people on
But
the
he
streets and no
doesn't
one's seen it.
know.
I haven't talked to anyone who's
He
seen
said
it.
he doesn't know. He's not part
And
of
who
that.
knows? Okay, who has control of the bank accounts, please?
Just stop.
Anybody else have a good question?
Follow up on,
Do you think that by having the truckers withdraw from the city, that the Trudeau government would consider negotiating with organizers?
That's a good question, and I want to be very careful about how I answer that. Because from day one, the mainstream media has painted this as anti-government and some ridiculous comments about us wanting government change. Completely false. I've never sat in on a meeting with that as a talking point. So I want to be very clear that our intent has always been, and always will be, to talk to the official government of Canada. I have stood at this podium. I have done other media events where I have outlined a plan and I've said, I'd like to talk to you. The response was riot police. No discussion, no dialogue. And I think Canadians should be absolutely appalled by the fact that we elected these people to represent our best interest, but not to lord over us like kings and queens and refuse to talk when, they prefer violence. So I just wanna leave it at that because I know how this will be spun. But I think people are smart enough to realize that, the preferred course of action from the government of Canada is violence over peace.